Couldn't stop yourself, could you? Had to make a funny face. Had to make a strange face. Just
I
had to.
did.
Just had to do it. I'm looking at.
I
It's
couldn't help
funny because right now the way that I have it organized, like it's like here's Kortney, and then there's no me.
it.
And I'm actually not mad that there's no me there. I actually may just leave it as being just you.
Why? What do you mean?
Like you'll have to see it. Like if you can't see it now, but like
Yeah, yeah.
there's just a picture of you, and there's
Oh, I
on
see. I see.
Instagram. There's no me on Instagram, but you know what I'm saying. And
Yeah, I
Justin
do.
Tway, shout out to Justin Tway. He's a owner of a CrossFit gym here in Atlanta, actually out in Alpharetta. What's up to him? Hopefully everybody can hear me. Somebody might want to give me a what's up. Let me know that we're actually on and popping. I don't want to waste any time. So if you think maybe we should switch it so we can see both of us, I'll try a different setting. If not, I'm like, whatever. Let me see if they can stack them. Hold on a second.
Okay. I need a better background.
All right, yeah, I flipped it, and so it's stacked now. Yeah. Well, no, because it's less you, and now it's like half you. Like you would have to move over to the right, like towards I'm sorry, to the left. Your left. Nope. Still wait. Hold on a second. Give the Instagram a minute to delay. Let me see what happens when you moved over. Okay, that's you moving to the right, and then now, yeah, it shows like half your face. Like, oh no, oh now you're there. Now you're in the shot. Yeah, you're in the shot now. And then if I do, let me see. If
I'll
I
lean left.
do this, move to the far right side of the screen, and do something like this, then maybe, yeah, maybe that's it. Okay, yeah, I think we can deal with this. It's all positioning. It's all weird because
It's all about the lighting.
and it's only Instagram because Instagram kind of restricts your movement. It like restricts where you can place everything.
They
So
restrict everything, dog.
it's crazy. Yeah, I'll just do that, and I'll even tilt the look. You can
Now
see
I'm
my
just looking
bathroom
at your
door.
hands, but that's okay. I know what
You're
your
just
face
looking at
looks
my
like.
hands now.
Yeah,
I can see all of you.
I can only see your hands.
Really? What are you
Yeah.
watching on Instagram, or are you like
No,
where are
no,
you
no.
watching?
Just on my screen, it's from your neck down.
Really? That's so
Uh
weird.
huh.
Well, we know we're here, and then on my screen it looks okay. I haven't heard
Okay.
back from anybody on the web, so I think we're ready to go ahead. The chat
Okay.
should come through. Okay, look. First off, everybody, we're here with Kortney Olson, world class entrepreneur, fitness athlete, jiu-jitsu, strongest thighs in the world. Kortney, let's start by telling people where you are today, what you're doing, and where you're going with all the things that you're doing as briefly as possible.
Okay. So I have to make a correction. It's deadliest thighs because there's a lot of women out there with really strong thighs. So I always clarify because that happens all the time. I wish I could say that,
But wait,
but
gotta
I'm
have
not
the
that motivated.
you gotta have the strongest thighs because if they're the deadliest, then I guess it's just how you use them.
Yeah. That part.
Watch your back, Dave.
It's all about how you use them, right?
I assume so. Dave, watch your back. Be careful.
Yeah.
That's Courtney's husband.
He's not too
So
far away.
you and Dave own a business called GRRRL Girl. It's a clothing business. You got a girl event happening soon, yeah?
We do. Which I'm
All right.
hoping you're coming out to DJ.
That's what I hear. That's
Yeah,
what
that's
I
the word on the
understand from
street.
your assistant. That's the word on the street.
Yeah.
Tell us about GRRL and why you started it and what it does, as well as the clothing line.
Yeah, so Girl is that. It's an athletic wear and I started it, well, initially it was a program for teenage girls called Camp Confidence.
Right.
And basically I got to the point where I was like, how could I have prevented going through all of the horrible things that I went through, had I had a different education. And after 9 months of meticulously planning and trying to find dissonance based courses and material, because I looked back at stuff like dare, that clearly didn't work because I ended up being a tweaker for 9 years. And Yeah, so we did that for 2.5 years. We had 62 graduates come through. And Jason, I mean, these girls were stunning. They were, between the ages of 13 and 17. I had a couple 18-year-olds, but just everything in front of them, so much potential. And they're like actively cutting themselves and going through horrific bullying, and it was just super depressing. And they would leave camp, and I'd follow back up with them later, and sometimes would see things kind of come apart, and I'm like, what's going on there? And what I'd come to find out is like, oh, it's a family unit, and a lot of times I'd be like, wow, your mom needs this message more than you do. And it was a great 2.5 years. And then one of my partners got pregnant. And in the downtime, my husband, who's a world renowned marketing person, he said,
Mm.
why don't you take the same mission and vision and roll that into a clothing line so you can reach the entire world instead of this tiny corner of Australia? And that's essentially what we did. And that uh, camp and the principle behind it, teaching girls how to learn to love themselves. And I know it's become so passe now, it's like, oh, what does that even mean? It's almost like there's certain words I can't stand. Influencer, collab. Collab makes my skin crawl. Um, it's like self-love. It's like, all right, we've said that so much. It's been so played out. It's kind of like lost the depth to it, but essentially teaching women and girls how to accept themselves, and from there be able to create a sisterhood, because that's why we feel women are held back as a gender, is because we're bred to see each other as competition. So yeah, that's how girl came to be. And we sell athletic wear, but we're really about starting conversations and creating awareness, around mental health, which includes body dysmorphia, eating disorders, disordered eating, and as well as the truth behind media and advertising. We don't use Photoshop or airbrush, and we don't use traditional sizing. So we use athletes' names and body types, because women always want to be smaller, boys always want to be bigger, and we really want to change that stigma and say, all right, well, you're perfect just the way that you are. It's cool if you want to change something or grow or, you know, redefine yourself. But at the end of the day, like we're perfect through every step of the journey. And so it's really given women the capability to plug in and find other like-minded women. We tend to have a lot of women with blue hair find our brand, which is really quite interesting. Uh, so that's what we do. DJ
Very
Los,
cool.
the Hebrew. Yeah.
Yo, DJ Los is a legend.
DJ
That's
Los, what
yeah.
up, though?
DJ Los, part of Tech 12, and his dad Carlos Butch Small is a legend. They're both amazing dudes. I actually talked to them about a week ago here on the Twitch channel.
Nice.
As you think back, and this isn't trying to displace any type of blame on you or make you responsible for it, but is there anything maybe back in the day that could have helped prevent the trauma that you experienced?
Yeah, as a young person, no, because, and that's why I'm driven to do what I do today, is to help educate people on the disease of alcoholism and addiction. Because I think when I got to my senior year of high school, I should say
Mhm.
by the time I got to my senior year of high school, I was already displaying huge red flags. When I got to junior high, I was just about sixth grade or so, I started counting calories. And then by the time I got to high school, I went down the path of disordered eating. So I started out with anorexia, moved into bulimia. And then my senior year, you know, despite the fact of being ASB president in a Christian rock band, 4.0 GPA, captain of a cheerleading team, all these things, I started smoking meth because I was so desperate to be thin. And so for so many years, I always attributed my choices to body image, because I was so desperate to look like Kate Moss. She was the image at 7 years old that I saw in a magazine that I was desperate to look like. And, her thighs are like the size of my forearm, even as an 8-year-old. So, but looking back, and learning what I've learned now through staying clean and sober for over a decade, I'm coming up on 12 years, you really start to understand the implications of being raised by an alcoholic. And, we have a great relationship today, but growing up, we don't realize how imperative our ages between 0 and 7 are and how we wind up as adults. Because that by the age of 7, we've created a majority of our beliefs. And a majority of those, of course, are negative and limiting. And so had I known growing up that my mom wasn't a bad person who needed to get good, but a sick person that needed to get well, and that this is, and I say dis-ease because the word disease freaks me out. When I first, I remember I first went to rehab when I was 21, and they were like, yeah, the disease of addiction. And I'm like, disease? That sounds like a crusty penis that's about to fall off somebody's body. It sounds horrific. It's like, oh man, I have a disease. What? So I say opposite of ease, dis-ease. So knowing that the dis-ease of addiction and alcoholism is learned behavior as well as hereditary, I would have had a much different experience. Because the thing, it's like the kid that watches his father, like Prince, his father beat his mom, and you're like, oh, I'm never going to do that. And then you wind up doing the exact same thing. And the same, I could say, was with my mom. The hair on the back of my neck used to stand up when she'd crack a king cobra at 7 o'clock in the morning, or pour her third glass of wine by 9 a.m., or make a martini. And I just despised her. I mean, I loved her, but I hated the environment, the uneasiness, the unknowing, the tension. It was a walking on eggshells, as we say.
Right.
So, yeah, in hindsight, that I believe is the biggest contributing factor. And that's why today with GRRRL, and we also have events, like as you said, we have an event coming up, but we talk about these things like, how are you talking in front of your daughter, right? So many women, and that was my situation as well. My poor mom, she had Lyme's disease for years, and the doctors misdiagnosed her, and she ended up being on the wrong medication. It screwed up her heart, gave her pre-Parkinson's. She lost her hair, so in terms of self-esteem, like she was severely beaten up, and mentally, I should say. And so listening to her growing up, it was like her self-talk, her self-worth. And of course, we're sponges from the ages of 0 to 7, and we just soak all that stuff up. And so we're saying, I'm disgusting, I'm fat. And then she was on a diet every other week. And this was the 80s. Like, we didn't know what we know today. And like knowing, it was like we were all in the Matrix. Like, just
Jane
didn't have a
Fonda's
clue.
Matrix with the Jane
That's
Fonda
right.
workout tapes
Yeah.
and Richard Simmons,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
So, from a male perspective, or a male position, how do you help eliminate the massive amount of trauma that women go through? What are your thoughts on that? I know you're not a man. I know you're not an expert on men, but you are a woman. And from your perspective, what do you think men can do differently?
it's like my dryer wanted to get involved. You're not a man.
That's not a real question. Next question.
The biggest thing that I could say is, you know, if we were coming from the perspective of just simply a man walking through society and how you could be best supportive, is, changing the conversation around what we look like. And I know it's difficult, especially for me, and a lot of times I'm hypocritical because I am a bodybuilder at heart. Like, I've been obsessed with muscles since I was a little girl, and I like to look like a science project. I like to see definition, I like to see veins, I like to be bigger. So to stop talking about your body is difficult. But when it comes to women, especially little girls, we change our vocabulary from, oh, you're such a pretty little girl, and oh, what a princess, and oh my gosh, dad, hide your shotgun. I still am, guilty of catching myself and saying stuff like that. But really it's like, wow, you're strong. We're focusing on our attributes and characteristics and, moral compass. So, wow, you're an amazing listener. Wow, look how strong you are. You know, those types of things aside from, wow, you're so pretty, and, focusing on looks, because that's what we're saying as a society is important. Whereas, we need to get back to, it was like back in the 1900s, early 1900s, when people would journal and write about their New Year's resolutions. It was to be more caring, to be more trusting, to be more forgiving, as opposed to, I need to lose 20 pounds, or I need to lose 50 pounds or whatever. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents on that.
And
And
from a
same for
female
women.
perspective, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, and you mean what can women do?
yes,
I suppose really the same thing. I mean, aside from remembering that other women are not your competition, actually, I think would be the biggest thing, right? Because, like I said earlier, we believe women are held back as a gender because we're programmed to see each other as competition. And I forget, because I've been surrounded with the girl army, as we call our members, that, this is still a real big problem. And because I've been away from working with teenagers, I also forget that, this is real. Like, there's so much bullying going on, and how they use social media to make it 10 times worse. Because, you and I didn't have to deal with that growing up, thank God.
bullying,
Um,
not
and
cyberbullying.
social media.
Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
social media was not a thing.
yeah.
Yes,
I mean, I was bullied. I used to come home crying every day in the sixth grade. I was such a
yeah.
doormat.
Well, I always
Uh,
wonder, is social media bullying worse than the actual physical bullying and like everybody cracking on each other the way we used to in high school and mocking each other for the kind of tennis shoes or, talking about each other's hair, bagging on each other's moms and pops. Like we were vicious towards each other. And I think, I don't know about how you feel, but the mechanism of social media definitely adds to that. Maybe I don't know. Does it amplify that?
yeah,
Yeah, is that what
100%.
your thought?
Yeah,
Um,
no, I absolutely agree with you. It's 10 times worse. And then plus, because they're just sitting there and there's no interaction, it's like there's frozen in time, because they're able to just mull it over and mull it over and mull it over. And then they don't get to participate back. It's like being stuck inside of a prison, you know?
yeah. Um, Kieran, as a mom of a daughter, I'm appreciating this talk. Thank you so much, Kieran. I know LV. LV is an amazing dad and activist here in the community, and DJ Mars joined us. Mars, who's made by Mars bikes and does incredible parties all over the world. And I was also Monica's DJ. I don't know if you saw Versus. I think you were talking about the Monica versus Brandy versus. He was the DJ for Monica, and he also DJs for Carrie Hilson. Just to give some shout outs to some of the people that actually came out. I really appreciate you guys. I'm sure Courtney does as well. I'm sure somewhere out
Same.
there, the girl army is out there somewhere hanging out with us. Um, we also suffer from kind of various forms of addiction, even if we're just looking at stuff on the internet, even if we're just watching television, even if it's sugar. Can't stop eating sugar and French fries. You know, I'm addicted to French fries. I can't turn them down. Everything is an addiction. In a society where we're constantly having things sold to us and then
Mm-hmm.
created in such a way that it actually makes us either physically or psychologically dependent on it. What were your addictions and where do you feel that came from in short?
That's a good question and a really good point. Like, everything is can become an addiction. I mean, even now they have 12-step programs for technology, like for screens, because it is, even though, and it's even more insidious, because at least with my addictions, we're talking about methamphetamines, alcohol, and narcotics. And those, alcohol and methamphetamines, will cause your life to come to a screeching halt. I've wrecked 5 Hondas. Well, four I've wrecked. One, I was just the passenger. It was my car. But, you are capable of hitting rock bottom a lot faster. Now, with the pain pills, so I put the other two down after a 9-year battle. After getting out of rehab, I still had to go another 9 years to figure it out. And then I put it down, and then I picked up, like Percocets And I did that for about a year and a half. And it started out with 2 a day. And then I started chewing up 6 at a time. And then
Jeez.
the last 6 month stretch was Oxycontin. And, you know, back then it was like $1 a milligram. So, I mean, I was getting up to like an $80 a day habit. And when I hit my rock bottom with the pills, it was more of a spiritual rock bottom, because at the time, you know, I was in the muscle fetish industry, making bank, making great money, my own boss, traveling wherever I wanted to, wasn't really saving anything, but I'd bought a house, you know, had 2 cars in the driveway that were in my name, you know, I was engaged, but I was so empty. It was like I was just making more money to spend more money. I was just constantly stressing out. And then having the focus be on my body, right? And as all these guys would, you know, oh, muscle goddess, and I'm not worthy, and blah, 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 and want to buy you gifts. But it was like, when I was with them and in front of them, I was okay. But the minute they walked out and I was by myself and in my head, I was like borderline suicidal, you know, because nothing was ever good enough. I mean, I was just absolutely miserable. And I'd be like, why can't I see what these guys see? All I would like hyper focus on is a dimple in my ass cheek, as opposed to, you know, my big strong quads or whatever. And so with that, it was a slow burn, but it did bring me to a point where I was like, okay, there has to be something out there more than what I'm doing. And so that last time around was a spiritual rock bottom when I got clean. And you know, the problem today, especially when it comes to things like you said, sugar, French fries, overeating, screens, you know, porn is super problematic.
Gosh.
It's the challenge with that is it doesn't necessarily cause that extreme rock bottom. You know what I mean? People aren't getting in a blackout from watching porn and crashing their car into a brick wall. So it's like this real slow burn that takes time to get to a rock bottom where you're at a place of like emptiness and darkness. So, um, and I think a lot of us are just dealing with, or we're not dealing with rather, our old trauma. And, you know, trauma sounds like, I mean, because it is, trauma is a deep word, but it sounds, it's like disease, like I was saying, you know, when you break it down, okay, well, what does it actually mean? So, because it sounds so horrific. It's like the word molested, you know, it's got so much baggage with it. Even the word God, you know, a lot of us, myself included, hear the word God, and it's like, we get our back up and freak out. And I was like, well, God could be dog spelled backwards. You know, it's just the definition of unconditional love, whatever that might be to you. It could be a wave, could be Mother Nature. So, but dealing with or not dealing with, again, trauma. And so I wrote about this in my book, and I said, this is obviously nothing is new under the sun, and everything I'm regurgitating, I've picked up from somebody else. And I think I got this off of a girl in hot yoga, lovely woman. And she said, you know, in order to get over something, you got to go through it and not around it. And going around it means putting French fries in your mouth, watching porn, you know, doing all these other things to distract ourselves, to give us that external hit of endorphins, right? We have a hard time sitting and being with ourselves. So, yeah, it's super fascinating.
Kathy
And, you know,
Berardi, who's a sorry.
no, go ahead.
Kathy Berardi, who's a she's a mom and a producer and a writer. Actually
Mhm.
lives out there on the West Coast with you, but she's in California. Asked what advice you have for moms of middle-aged daughters for confidence.
Oh, that's a great question. I, oh, hmm. To sum that up, it's important to find external voices, I think, getting them involved, you know. And it's hard too in junior high, because girls, what happens is, you know, we get our periods, and we split off because society says things are a lot different now.
Mm.
But, you know, society tells girls to go the Kim Kardashian route and be focused on your skincare routine. And, you know, we start growing boobs. I never did. I missed that train, but you know, all of a sudden girls don't want to be sporty like they used to. But when it comes to, if you have the ability to get them involved in some kind of athletics, and even if it's an individual thing like powerlifting or you know, jujitsu, you know, some kind of martial art, and the hard part too is, and that's why I say, you know, GRRRL is like a public service announcement, because it's like, get them following like GRRRL on Instagram, because they'll be inspired by outside voices. Because there's this phenomenon, I deemed it within these four walls phenomenon. And what that means is if you live in the same house with somebody, what they say is going to go in one ear and out the other. Point in case, my husband, like I said, world-renowned marketing person. He has more awards around the world than any marketing person. Like, he's a genius. And I remember when I started Camp Confidence, he was like, oh, you should do this and this. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then some random girl off the street who, you know, is like a photographer is like, oh, you should advertise in this magazine. And I'd come bebopping home and I'm like, oh yeah, this girl said I should do this and this. And he's like, did you not hear a word that I said? You know, does my opinion not matter? And I'm like, oh, well, it does. But so when kids hear things from within the house, a lot of times it's like, yeah, whatever. And it's not you as the parent. It's just called within these four walls phenomenon. It's just a phenomenon. It's just within these four walls, you know? So again, putting them onto pages like GRRRL, where we can see girls doing epic things and being strong and being powerful and accepting what our body looks like, you know, and saying, hey, no pressure, but you're a leader. You are walking us through, you are our future leaders. You know, it's really up to you to change the conversation, to change the narrative, to change the game, and start accepting yourself and putting importance and focus on things that really matter. You know, like being a good person, practicing random acts of kindness, you know, smiling at strangers, doing these things that fill up your cup and energy exchange, taking responsibility for yourself, not being a victim. Like, let's go, you know, get them hyped up. And then, of course, what are you doing? That's always the biggest thing, too, because it's so easy for us to point a finger and we got three fingers pointing back at ourselves, right? So it'd be like, okay, well, what's my kid doing? But it's like, okay, well, what am I doing? Because even though they've already established their beliefs, you know, they're on TikTok, they're still observing and watching everything that you do. It's like when we learn NLP, right? I'd sit across from you and say, Jason, we're at a restaurant and you're scratching your head. Then I scratch my head. You wipe your eye, I wipe my eye. You rub your nose, I rub my nose. And it might seem so ridiculous, but if I mimic everything that you do, subconsciously, our brain is counting, right? Okay, tick, 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 tick. I identify. And once you hit a certain number, I think it's like 100 or something like that, it's usually an automatic yes when it comes to sales. And that's why people say NLP is like snake oil, you know? But subconsciously, our brain is 40 million times more powerful than our conscious mind. So that's why advertising and marketing have this whole ass major in college. Like, it's a whole discipline because it's so powerful, right? And it's like, it's a whole industry because our subconscious mind is so easily spoken to. So even though they might be on their phone watching TikTok, subconsciously they're picking up on everything that you're doing. So watching you be a leader, how are you talking to yourself? How are you building up your confidence? What are you doing to further your education? What are you doing to take responsibility in your life? Are you sitting there bitching about President Biden and how he should not be speaking and, you know, the woes of the world? Or are you enjoying yourself? Are you like, you know what? I'm going to take 30 minutes out of my day today to do me. I'm going to go on a walk by myself. See you later. Take care of your own needs, or whatever it might be. You know, are you working on your effective communication? When you guys talk, are you saying things like I feel? Or when they're watching you with your partner, are you saying you make me so angry when you watch me sit here and, you know, you're on watching the TV and I'm vacuuming? Well, no, your husband's not making you do anything, or your wife's not making you do anything. You choose to be angry instead of saying, hey, I feel really disrespected when you watch me, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then the other person's like, oh, I don't want you to feel disrespected, because they're coming from a place of love and not from a place of being defensive. You know, it's just small little things that we have the capability within ourselves to take control of. So that would probably be my second biggest thing is, you know, well, first is, if you can, enroll them into some kind of power sport like powerlifting, get them following some accounts like GRRRL. I'd say myself, but I'm not the greatest role model anymore for teenagers. I cuss a lot and you know, shake my butt around on the internet and whatnot. But the second biggest thing would be to look at yourself and say, okay, how am I going to be the best role model that I can be for my kid inadvertently? Because subconsciously they're picking up on all that stuff.
So tell me this: fitness can be an addiction. We know
Yes.
that. What led you to fitness? And do you feel that was an addiction?
Absolutely. It was absolutely 100% addiction. And what led me to it was body dysmorphia. And again, everything was is swings and roundabout. It's like at least I didn't have a meth pipe hanging out of my mouth, but at the same time, I was equally as unhappy. But the difference being I wasn't a menace to society. I wasn't potentially going to run somebody over because the reality is I was a blackout drinker on a daily basis. I mean, I can't count the number of times I got behind a wheel when I had absolutely zero business doing so. And so getting into fitness, like, yes, I've done my fellow humans a favor. But that being said, I just swapped one addiction with another. And hypergymnasia is a real thing. And there was one point in 2000 and when was it, 2013 and 2014, like I just started Camp Confidence, but I was doing Bikram yoga, CrossFit, and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu all in the same day, 5 days a week. I mean, I was training like 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, and then the rest of the time I'd be spending on camp. But I would like walk around and be feeling my abs. Let's say I had frozen yogurt. If I put too many shaved almonds on it, I'd be like, oh my God, I just ruined all my hard work for the week. What a dick. I shouldn't have gone. I went way too overboard. What? So unhealthy. So I really did swap one addiction for the other. And, constantly in my head. And that's why I don't have a lot of good memories. I don't have a lot of like solid um, things to stop and think about because I'm never present. I was always in my head, either future tripping on what am I going to do to work off what I just ate, or in the past, mulling over something, which is a human condition anyway, right? Our survival mechanisms out there in the matrix are to be anything but present, right? So we're either always in the future or always in the past, but more so with body dysmorphia. I mean, it was just constant, constant, constant. So, and then of course, what a disservice to my husband, right? Like he would wake up with a tear in his eye because I'm so beautiful. And then I'm like, oh, I'm so fat. Like, it's just such a strange thing in hindsight because how I got through it was really super gradual, and the same can be said with getting sober. We say in the room, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, right?
Mm.
And a lot of times people see the difference in us before we see it in ourselves. But with this body dysmorphia, it happened really gradually for me. I think GRRRL helped tremendously because in the early days of GRRRL, um, I felt like I was what do you call it? I was just a thief, like it was a front. I'd be
Kind of
like,
felt
oh, I
like a
love your body.
charlatan.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
charlatan. That's it, a charlatan. And what was going on in my head was not reflective of what was coming out of my mouth. And I do say like sometimes you got to fake it till you make it, but as long as you're authentic through the journey, and meaning, and again, that's a whole chapter in my book. It's like, well, yeah, sometimes we do have to fake it till we make it, but as long as you're not, because I would say things and then I'd call myself out on it all the time. Like I'll publicly be like, you know what, I said this, but this is how I feel. um so yeah, body dysmorphia and picking up fitness is super easy to do as an addiction. And then is one better than the other? I'd say no, but like I said, given the fact that I didn't have a danger of running over somebody, like I'm still to this day, like I don't know how I don't wake up every morning and be like so full of gratitude and be like, oh my God, how did I avoid going to prison? How did I not kill somebody? How did I not dismember myself? Um, like it's a miracle. But of course I forget about that and I just get stuck right back into the monotony of being an entrepreneur. So yeah, it's absolutely an addiction for sure.
Where do you think the human desire to like, to look good comes from? Like where like it's an interesting phenomenon to look at, I don't know, Instagram. I'm sure that 60 to 70% of the traffic on Instagram is literally females and men looking at women, observing what they do for either sexual stimulation, to emulate them,
Mm-hmm.
because they think they can shoot their shot in the DM. Where do you think the human desire for beauty or and perfection and strength and all that, where do you think that comes from, and how dangerous is that?
It comes from, you're full of great questions. You're amazing at interviewing people, by the way. So I
You just
don't
saying that
just
because you're my friend. Okay, first, I
No,
want to
man.
apologize to anybody that ever watches that, because I was not in any way making fun of anybody who has any sort of mental handicapped or
Oh no. Isn't it
it's
funny
just,
how we have to clear our name, but like I
you want to be
cancel
Chris Rock
culture
and
is
get
wild.
smacked.
Yeah, cancel culture is wild. Um, I, yeah. So, interesting question. I went through this leadership training, which teaches emotional intelligence, called Choice Leadership. That's here in Las Vegas. And I'm actually supposed to go back. I'm going to go back and do the other half, because they break it up into 2 4-day courses. The first course is called
Okay.
Discovery, and the second course is called Breakthrough. And then you do coaching, like leadership, the leadership program. And so in this first course, the first day we learned that there are 4 mechanisms for survival out in the drift. And the drift is what they call the matrix. It's what I call the matrix. So the drift is just like our existence, our society. And those 4 are the need to be right, looking good, um, I forget the third one, and the fourth one is to avoid pain. So that third one's going to drive me nuts. But looking good, right? So the professor, because he's actually a professor who's also the trainer, but he was saying, I'm flying around, rushing to get to my next connecting flight, and I go to get on the plane and I trip over my bag right in front of the pilot, and I stand up, and the first thing I do is fix my tie. Right? It's just drilled into us. It's inherent. It's just part of the human condition. It is what is programmed into us from the minute we're born, is to look good, to save face, to be right, to avoid pain. And that third one is going to drive me nuts. I'll probably text you at 1 o'clock this morning and remember what it is. But it's just
I'll give you the
it's
one word response. Okay, Court.
yeah, that part.
Go back to
But
sleep,
yeah.
Courtney.
So yeah,
Oh,
it is
oh.
it is the human condition, and this course cost a lot of money. And it was a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, who is I met him in Thailand. He was the head coach of top team Phuket. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, judo. His ears are all cauliflowered and folded, like he's hardcore, right? And he'd always had like these walls up. And when he went through the course, I was like, what's going on with you? Like all of a sudden he was loving and open and present. And I was like, and he had gone through this training. And I said, okay, I'm sold. Because again, if it was anybody else, I'd be like, I'm not spending that kind of money. I actually don't have it. I ended up putting it on a credit card. And,
Wow.
but I'm constantly striving. I crave personal development. I love it. I just love it. Um,
If only
but
more
in
people
saying
would do
that,
that.
what?
If only more people would do that.
I know. But in a lot of this stuff, I know that I've learned last weekend or weekend before last, is a lot of it parallels a 12-step program. A lot of these principles of, not being a victim, taking responsibility for yourself. But because this training was experiential and you're doing these activities with people, like you don't take notes throughout the entire 4 days. You experience it. Um, and they even call the committee, right? So we say a lot of these words we say in 12-step recovery as well. So it's like the committee, it's the voices in your head. And that's what this course referred to them as well. But realizing like you are not your thoughts. We're going to have these thoughts regardless, but you are not your thoughts. So the idea is to become super aware of them and then be able to make the distinction of whether or not you agree with it or you don't. So it was super powerful and super interesting. And again, it's like it takes a lot of work to commit to living that type of life. It's not easy. You know, it's like, again, I take it back to the Matrix. Like, well, red pill, blue pill. You know, you just have the blue pill. It's like whatever. You eat your steak. You know, but with the red pill, it's like you're. And I hate how it's been politicized. It's just ruined it. But you know, the red pill. It's like, okay, well, here's the reality, right? So there's
Right.
going to be some costs associated to. So let's say you go out and you decide you're going to be happy, right? So we change our mentality from I have to I get to. Because as children, we say, oh, I have to brush my teeth. I have to eat my vegetables. But as adults, nobody's making us do anything, right? They're not
Right.
making me do anything. I have to. Oh, I have to get on social media. I hate it. I have to get on social media or I won't sell any products. And if I don't sell any products, I can't pay my rent. If I don't pay my rent, I'm going to be out on the street. You break it down to the very bottom and you say, okay, well, I'll rather do social media than be on the street. And it's like, you know, so we slowly change our responses from I have to I get to, you
Tell
know, but
yourself
even,
a story.
yeah, but even that in and on its own is a stretch. Like that takes work. It takes a conscious effort to say, okay, you know, I'm going to do that. So if you go out and let's say you go shovel the snow off your deck and you're whistling and I love it. I'm shoveling snow. It's so much fun. Well, what's the trade-off? Like what's the price you might have to pay? Your neighbors might think you're crazy. Your friends might think you're inauthentic because really who wants to shovel snow? You know what I mean? So there's risks involved in everything. But it's just super fascinating to start becoming more aware of how miserable we make ourselves. It's like the Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz. You know, it's like if you follow these 4 simple agreements, you will never experience needless pain and suffering as a human being. And you're like, oh, that sounds easy enough. But then when you sit down and you attempt to do it, even just the first agreement, be impeccable with your word. Try that shit for 24 hours. Don't speak negatively about anybody else or yourself. Only use your word for white magic. Well, even that makes me like think, well, why is white good? And, you know, black magic's dodgy. You know, I'm like, what's
Yeah.
going on here? But you know, use your word for good. Like, don't speak negatively, and try that for 24 hours and watch what happens. Like, you know what I mean? We're just programmed to be the opposite, to gossip, to, you know, complain about things. Oh, it's too hot. Oh my God, I'm too cold. Oh, I have Graves' disease. I'm, you know,
And
on and on
take
and on.
and we're programmed to take the path of least resistance, which is
Avoid
always,
pain. That's
yeah.
right. Avoid pain. It's one of our 4 primary survival mechanisms.
So
So,
check
yeah.
so check this out. All right, so there are a lot of fitness athletes, amateur and pro, on the internet. People look at them. What are they looking at? And you know, not to get into a long discussion about it, but what are we looking at? Time spent, diet, supplements. Are they using performance enhancers? Is there any way for us to know? And then why are you comparing yourself when you have no idea what's gone into the concoction or mixture? Not making any statements about drugs, but into what they had to go through to become what they are, and are people even ready for that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Once again, you're full of them. I mean, no, comparison is the thief of joy, right? Thank you, Eleanor Roosevelt. It's again, like even I look back. So a big part of girl we say is like you can't decipher someone's mental health by how they look, and we'd cop it a lot. You know, oh, you're promoting obesity or you know an unhealthy lifestyle. It's like, bitch, no, we're not. Like this woman is, you know, deadlifting 3 times her weight and she weighs twice as much as I do. Like it really doesn't matter. You know, like this girl we sponsored briefly. I don't know why her last name escapes me all of a sudden, but she's a quote unquote plus size dancer. And, you know, I danced for like 10 seconds and I'm out of breath. Like, and she'd go on and on and on and on. And, you know, it's like, you're just completely talking out of your ass right now. And, you know, when I was um, really ripped up in 2009, like I said, I was chewing up like 6, 7 Percocet at a time because it would kill my appetite. And there was a period when I was addicted to Robitussin because it killed my appetite, you know. But it's like looking at me, oh wow, you sure look fit as a fiddle, as Australians would say. It's the stupidest saying ever. Fit as a fiddle. Okay. But, you know, granted, I'm super lean and muscular, but I was mentally so unwell and disturbed, right? So it's like whatever you're looking at, you're absolutely right. You have no idea what's gone into that. But the other thing too is like performance enhancing drugs is huge, as well as surgeries. Like surgeries, especially nowadays, have become so widely available. And it's just, it's ridiculous how easy it is to get um, liposuction or a Brazilian butt lift or, um, various things. So it's really not worth it because you just have no clue. You have no
And is
clue.
it
And even if
healthy?
they look, yeah, and that's the thing. Even if they look a certain way, it's like, okay, well, are they happy? Are they mentally sound? Or are they sitting there absolutely miserable, hating their life? It's like, I wanted a baby for a short period of time. And I'd be like, I'd go on Instagram and I'd see, friends that have kids, or it seemed like everybody was having kids all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, they look so happy. You know what I mean? But as soon as they put the camera down, the kid is crying and they're like, you're just trying to take a dump in silence and your kid's banging on the door, right? Or, as soon as you put the camera down, it's like, they're like,
That's why I'm thinking renting kids is another business. I got to talk to
yeah.
Dave about that because I think that people want kids, but they only want them for like 4 to 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
If you're renting a
It's a
kid, you get
great
into good,
business idea. You are
you're
a
getting
true
some good
entrepreneur.
numbers. You get some good numbers. You can rent the kid. Some of the people just want the kid overnight. Like they just want to know that it's in the house. So if you're a parent and you got a kid, you can put it someplace secure. It's sleeping with this family. It'll be fine. You pick it up the next morning. All they wanted it was for sleeping. Then the next person just wants to feed a kid their breakfast. So you got a little shorter window there, but you charge a certain amount of money. You add in premium costs like feeding the baby is extra money. Unsupervised baby feeding is extra money. Like
Yeah.
I think it's viable, and we'll have to talk to Dave about that. But I think
Yeah,
for
you
people
guys could definitely have a conversation around
for
that for
people
sure.
who want kids but don't want them all the time,
Yeah.
and they don't have a relative that they can easily get the kid from,
Yep.
yeah, I think that they could rent some kids. And I mean, it's not
Yeah.
slavery because you're not making the kid do anything. It's just existing in your space temporarily. You can get them at different ages, and different ages cost different amounts of money.
Yeah.
You know,
I think you got something there, dude. You should definitely write this down.
it's like it's not adoption, it's rental. I get insurance extra kid insurance, and then I own the insurance company, so I'm making extra money. Or I'm in business with them, so I'm making kid insurance money. You could go crazy, man.
Kid insurance money. I love it.
Quote from your post:
Write it
riots,
down.
not diets. That's either both a t-shirt and a quote from GRRL. What does that mean, and what is that calling for?
So that actually, I believe, came from Riot Girl. I think I'm not 100 because it was something that being born in the 80s, I was more, we come of age in our late teens, so it was like really more towards the 2000s. And Riot Girl, I think, was like early 90s. So it wasn't something on my radar. It was never like a punk rock kid. If anything, I was more, Rasta and yeah, really Rasta kid.
Were you serious, or were you like 311 Rasta?
What'd you say, pre-11?
311, like the group
Oh,
311 that
311. No,
makes
I
all
was
the
serious.
reggae influenced rock.
No, I was serious. We grew up in Humboldt County, so
You couldn't fake it.
yeah, for those of you that don't know, it's like the original Amsterdam of North America. So yeah, you're either hippie or a tweaker where I grew up. And I started out as a hippie before I became a tweaker. But so yeah, the Riot Girl, I think that's came from them. I'm not 100, but I always like to give credit where credit comes from. And it's interesting because our brand name Girl, we had originally registered, the company was Like a Girl, GIRL Clothing. And we went and met with the designer, and she was like, yeah, it sounds really flowery, like it's really girly and da da da. And Dave went to go put money in the meter for the car, and when he went out, he said, well, Kortney spells her name differently, how could we spell girl differently? And that's when the word girl, GRRRL, appeared before his mind's eye. And he's from the UK, he's what, 53. he did not like Riot Girl was not even anything he was remotely familiar with. So that, you know, even though at the time it had nothing to do with it, but obviously that was something that existed back in the day, and a feminist brand of that. So I think Riots Not Diets came from that. And that essentially is saying, you know, disrupt the system. Like, we're done with diet culture. Because diet culture, it's truly toxic. And it's just this prison of, you know, you will be more lovable, worthy, desirable if you look this way, if you lose this amount of pounds. And it's something that's never achievable. You know, it's never obtainable. I mean, maybe 0.01% of the population. Like, I even myself, dude, I got caught up. Who was I looking at? Because she lives in my building, and she's the UFC ring girl. Brittany Palmer.
Mm.
And I stumbled on her Instagram, or my roommate was talking about it or something. And I was like, my God, just living her best life. Like, on a private jet, on the back of a boat in Puerto Vallarta, you know, ring girl for the UFC. She's highly artistically skilled. So she's a painter. So she paints. But then she's got her OnlyFans and just killing it. And
And
just
this
a
is recent?
stunning. What's that?
This is recent, or this is a few years ago?
Oh, this was this last night. I was just looking at her Instagram.
Oh,
So
wow.
I think
Okay.
she's been a ring girl for quite a while, but for some reason she just looks like she's frozen in time. I don't know how old she is, but you know, maybe 30. I have no idea. But I remember looking at her Instagram and being like, God, my life sucks. You know what I mean?
Well, then, I mean, but the funny thing is, Court, you gotta realize, like, at least 10 people hit me up was like, "Yo, that's that watermelon crushing girl." You know, like, oh, like, you know, like somebody was like, "Man, I really want to see what she looks like in person. Like, look at her pictures." You know, so everybody has a different person that they're
That's
looking at.
cool.
You know, so you
Yeah,
have
that's
to,
exactly right.
you have to
And I have,
realize that a lot of people are
yeah,
looking
dog.
at
I
your
had,
pictures and saying, "I want to look like her." You know, what does it take to get on her level? You know, what's her
yeah,
diet
dude.
like? What's her
I know.
workout like? You know, does she have a trainer? Does she have a coach? You know, what is
That's
she
why we
doing?
have that's why we have friends, is to pull each other out on our shit like that. Cause I did though, but I full disclosure, I went down that path and I was like, damn, you know. But then I tell other people, or you know, young girls, I'm like, and just what we were talking about, you can't look at other people and be like, oh, they're so healthy, and really they're mentally unstable and unwell and miserable. Or with the kids, you know, they look smiley and happy for the picture. It seems like kids is the best option they could have ever had, but really when they put the camera down, it's like they haven't slept for 2 months, you know, their postpartum depression is kicking in. So I know better, and it didn't last for very long, but it's like it's so easy to get wrapped up. And that's the thing with social media. It's like, man, it's so toxic. And you know, again, the diet culture, it's like, oh, it's so toxic. And moving away from it and starting new conversations is, it's painstaking. You know, it definitely takes time. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's everything's a process. I mean, you know, no matter what you're doing, I watch all these different DJs that are turntablists online. Half of me is like, everybody's emulating old school 8-track. 8-track was dope back in the day. Everybody's emulating the Tech 12 crew. Everybody's emulating the Visible Scratch Pickles and Qbert and Rock Raider. And then you look at it and you don't practice. Like, I don't practice as much as I probably could or should anymore. I don't have that kind of hand speed. And you look at two 12-year-old girls that are fantastic turntablists, and you know, one half of you is criticizing them, the other half of you is saying, well, look how dope they are, and look, you know, imagine how good they're going to be when they're 18, when they're, you know, imagine how good they're going to be when they're, you know, when they're 24. It
Yeah.
just, there's amazing duality that goes in our mind that forces us to look at people and either want to emulate them or tear them apart. You know, that's why we go to car
Yeah.
races, so we can see the wrecks. We go to hockey
Yeah.
games so we can see the fights, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that guy
100%.
skate. Yeah, watch him punch him in the face. Yeah, that's the good part.
Yeah.
You know, when people
Good
walk
point.
away from this conversation, what do you want them to walk away with? I should have given away some
And
girl shirts. I should have bought like some girl shirts and given them away. Maybe more
oh,
people
you
would
don't
be
need to
here.
buy anything. I'll always hook you up. Our inventory is so light right now though because of cash flow, but it's all good. It's all
Cash
about
flow
to turn
and
around.
shipping. And
Yeah.
shipping. You can't get anything anywhere fast anymore. In fact, I ordered some pants and they came and somehow they got returned, but they had my actual address on them. And the post office, you can't call the post office to talk to them. You can't call companies anymore to talk to them. So you send emails back and forth. And by the time the email got to them, they just decided to send me a whole nother package, which means that they ate the cost of the first package. It's
Yeah.
bananas.
Yeah, it
So
is. It's absurd.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just
that's well
glad you guys
said.
are doing well. And when you do stock up, I definitely want to do whatever I can to, support and promote it. So maybe I don't know, maybe we do some giveaways or something like that, or
Yeah, that'd
we
be awesome.
do like a
No.
girl online party, like an all request party for all your girl army women.
Yeah.
And then, like while they're on there, they can, win some leggings or win a t-shirt or something like that. That might be
Yeah,
dope.
I like that. I like that. I like that thought. Answer your question. Number one thing I want people to walk away from is, I guess, just have more um, empathy for someone in your life if they're struggling with addiction, or alcoholism, for you to know that it has nothing to do with you. Because, I mean, generally speaking, all of us either know somebody or are directly impacted by that person. And as an alcoholic, it's like we disrupt the entire fabric of society, because it's like our mood and our actions and behaviors. It's like whether it's the postman or, the lady at the grocery store that's checking out your groceries. It's like, we have the ability to really screw up everybody's day that we come into contact with. But know that, it's not a choice. Like, I didn't wake up and be like, yeah, when I grow up, I want to be an addict. It's just like, nah, that's not how it goes. So know that, it's not a choice. They're not bad people who need to get good, but sick people that need to get well, and that there are a lot of free resources out there for yourself if you are directly impacted or affected. So if you have a brother, sister, lover, best friend, um, there's a program called Al-Anon, and it's a free 12-step program that teaches you how to use the 12 steps. And they're the same steps that are in other 12-step programs, but it empowers you to stop enabling that person and to truly understand the dis-ease of addiction and alcoholism and break the cycle. And then this person, because it's attraction rather than promotion, as an alcoholic, if you tell me I have to do something, I'm going to give you two middle fingers. So you go do it yourself. But if, somebody is changed in front of me, like my friend, had he pushed me hard and said, you have to do this, I'd be like, I don't think so. But because I just saw him and saw his changes and he didn't really have to say much, it was a attraction rather than him promoting me to go to this training. So same can be had or said with, Al-Anon, is this person will see you step away, you detaching, you not vibing off of their negative energy. You just decide to say, you know what, I'm not doing it. Like, go handle your own shit. I'll love you, but I'm doing it from afar. And they'll be like, oh, well, what did you do differently, or what are you doing? And they want what you have. So that would probably be the number one thing that I could share with people is Al-Anon is an amazing program. It's free. And, you find your community, because when in my experience, isolation is the root cause of all of our negativity as human beings, so by providing a like-minded community, and that's what we have with GRRRL and the GRRRL Army, is a community of women who are wanting to make change and to not see their daughters or their sisters go through the same mental strife that they did, and hatred for their body, and they want to create a new world. So and like the other day I was driving to the second day of training and someone honked and waved at me, and I was like, what's this person waving at? And then I realized, I said, oh, it's another Mini Cooper driver. So it's like this thing, Mini Cooper owners are like, hey, welcome to the club, or um like, so as an alcoholic, when I go to a meeting in Singapore, Thailand, Turkey, China, Australia, anywhere in the United States, it's like I can meet another alcoholic and be like, you're family. I don't know you. I don't have to like you, but I love you. I understand exactly what you're going through. And we got it like that. And it's an immediate love connection. It's like, whereas I don't know a lot, but a significant number of people who are really well off and wealthy, but they're miserable because they're lonely. They don't have that. They don't have their group. They don't have their tribe. They don't have a network. So, to be able to say building communities, because again, that's another buzzword like collab and influencer. It's like community. It's like, okay, well, what does that mean? We say it, we throw it around. But again, what it is just a group of like-minded people who are there to support you, understand what you're going through, striving for the same stuff, and you feel connected and loved. So
Brilliant.
whether that be through Al-Anon or what have you. But yeah, that would be my thing. It's just to raise some awareness around addiction and alcoholism and know that this isn't a choice. You know what I mean? It's like, I didn't want to choose that life. So that's what's up.
Build your community. Don't build a ghetto around yourself. A friend of mine said that to me years ago. Don't build your own ghetto, meaning people who are like you and don't take you outside of your world so that you don't get to see new things. In other words, carefully, construct a world and a group of people that allow you not only to reflect yourself, but also to see other things and see other perspectives. He said that, and I was like, wow, dude, that's
Wow.
something we gotta write down. Don't build your own ghetto. I was like, wow. Because that's
Yes.
what ghetto comes from, is Europe, when they used to basically have like ethnic groups packed into an area and isolated from other groups, for the sake of isolation and control.
Yep.
That was an interesting statement that he made. But yeah,
Yeah.
and as well, dudes, don't hate your bodies, because when you hate
Yeah.
your body, that's when
100%.
you hate other people's bodies, and then you end up saying bad things about other people and women and being disrespectful and abusive
Yep.
and lame.
In that order.
In that order. GRRL.com. That's GRRL.com. That's Kortney and Dave's company. They're about women's advancement and empowerment and making the world a better place for everybody. You guys check out the website and consider going to Vegas and exploring the various groups and the various events that they have. And hopefully at some point they'll come to a town near you, unless
Yeah, that
you're in
part.
someplace bogus, like, I don't know, someplace small that only 4 people live in and just bad things happen there, you know?
Eventually, we'll take this show on the road for sure. That's kind of part of the big vision. Is besides producing a docu series this year. I mean, it'll be in production this year. Hopefully, roll out next year. But is to get auditoriums full of women and girls, teaching them how to crush watermelons and sharing my experience, in the muscle fetish industry, and be like, look, the world is not what we think it is. Beauty is not what's on the cover of a magazine or whatever Kim Kardashian's doing. It's being authentic, it's being strong, being a caring, compassionate person. So I think you can expect a lot out of me next year and the second half of this year. The big things. That's
I
what's up.
appreciate what you do with to show strength and to encourage women to have strength with watermelons, but I like watermelons, and I hate to see a good watermelon go to
You can
waste.
eat it. We
I'm not
usually eat
eating
them.
some watermelon that's been between anybody's legs. I'm not eating anything that's been between anybody's legs. Fruits, that's not happening. So it's like once the
Who's
watermelon dies and your clutches, I'm just like, damn, there goes another good watermelon. And I hate
You're
to
so
be a
funny.
stereotype, you know, black dude liking
Yeah.
watermelon and everything, but I mean, everybody
Hey,
loves watermelon.
no,
Everybody loves watermelon. I don't
most
know anybody.
people.
I think I met one person who was like, I'm allergic to watermelon. I can't have it.
Oh,
I was
okay.
like, what?
Blasphemy.
Yeah, it's sad, man. It's very sad. Courtney,
Stat
thank you.
ad.
Shout out to Marcia No Brady and the Hal Show. The Hal Show is on every day starting at 9 o'clock. It's news you can use or lose. And Miss Marcia No Brady, one of the many women of the Hype Girls who support various Twitch streamers and content producers. What's up, you guys? Thank you for attending, and thanks to I Know LV from Beats and Breakfast. Hopefully everybody shared this and other people actually got to watch. It was good content. I think we learned a lot from you today, Courtney. It was
Thank
good
you.
to get to know even more about you. and to delve into a whole nother community and hopefully draw those people into what you're doing, and to take a look at all your gear, because you got fresh gear. You and Dave got
Yeah.
ridiculous gear on you. When you go to the shop, it's crazy.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. You are a fantastic, you were great at connecting. I mean, this is what you do. This is your jam. And I haven't really gotten to see you, I've listened to you several times, but to actually hear and experience, the whole thing, it's been awesome. You're great at this. You were born for this shit. So
Wow, that's a huge compliment coming from you, fam. Thank you. I appreciate it. And hopefully we can do more things again, and hopefully stuff that actually benefits your movement. Like I
thank you.
said, I'm totally down to do something for, the whole girl army, and
Right on.
look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Thanks, babe.
All right, take care. I'll see you
I
later.
will.
And peace out.
Peace out.